What is going on, guys? Torchy here. Welcome to the video. Thank you again for all the feedback and all the support on our latest tip series. I really do hope that our videos are helping you improve in Valorant. It's just such a fun game. I'm loving every second of it, and there's just so much content and so many topics that we can cover here on the channel. So please keep giving us your comments, your feedback, any of your questions. We would love to answer them here on the next video. For today's video, I want to go over a little bit more on holding angles and taking better gunfights, and start mixing in a little bit of a general discussion on agent abilities. So we've been covering a lot about gunfight tips and how to win your gunfights in this series so far. And this is pretty much because I feel it's just super important for people to practice and take the smartest gunfights that they can. Everybody always talks about objective wins games, and while that's mainly true, I mean, let's think about it even from a more general perspective. How do we get to play objective? We have to win gunfights. If we want to push a site, plant the bomb, we need to win the gunfights to get to that site in the first place. If we're gonna plant the bomb and hold post plant, we need to be able to win those gunfights as well. If we're gonna be defending a site, we have to be able to win these gunfights. So that's why I keep going back to this topic and kind of doing more content around better crosshair placement, better aim, how to hold your angles, and win out these gunfights. Because if you can do that, I can guarantee that you will be able to transition that skill into winning more games. So with that being said, before we jump into today's topic, I want to go back to something we talked about in the previous video and make a little bit of a slight clarification or correction, whatever you want to call it. If you haven't seen our last tip video, definitely go back and check it out. It was a really solid video on how you should hold your angles, how you should peek, and it will help make you understand this video a little bit better. In tip video number 3, I mentioned something about never wide swinging your opponents, okay? And while that's generally true, I want to make a quick clarification on that statement. What I meant was that you shouldn't wide swing your opponents without the proper information. We talked a little bit about gathering information in the last video by using techniques like jiggle peeking and just kind of quickly checking to see and spotting. We also talked about gathering information, you know, with slicing the pie, being able to clear out all of your angles. But what I wanted to mainly say was that you don't want to wide swing without knowing where the enemy could be. Once you have the correct information, once you have proper information, you can and you should confidently wide swing your opponent and take that gunfight. Have good crosshair placement, swing, use this pivot motion that we practiced in the last video where you're strafing and pulling your mouse in the opposite direction. Have your crosshair placed head level and just wide swing and confidently peek that enemy. Once you've gathered, and you can say, for example, my opponent's here in the corner, right? I've jiggled, I know he's there. I'm gonna wide swing and take that fight, right? Another technique that you can use to gather information is to simply use your abilities. And with that, that's kind of our topic for today's video. We're gonna talk about using abilities and why it's so important that you use them each round that you can. All agents in this game have abilities, and that's just a core mechanic of the game. And for the most part, you have to buy your abilities every round or get enough points that go towards your ultimate ability. To get your ultimate ability, you have to gather points throughout the game. To do this, you can either collect orbs throughout the map, get some kills, or plant or defuse the spike. So why is it important that we use our abilities, and how can we use them to help us win gunfights? Well, let's take a quick look here in a custom. We're going to be playing the agent Omen, who has the ability to smoke off certain areas, right?
Cover going out.
This smoke, as you can see at C long, is blocking our vision completely, right? And this isn't the type of smoke that you would want to put when you're attacking a site, right? Because it's going to block our entire opening. However, if you recall in the last video, we were peeking C long, and there's just so many different areas that our opponents could be. And this is what I was talking about when I said don't wide swing your opponent, right? Just because if you do this without information, your opponent could be anywhere on the site, and there's so many areas that you'd have to flick to. Now, if we use Omen's smoke ability and we throw this onto C long, you're gonna notice that it's gonna start to cut off certain lines of sight or certain angles that our opponents could take.
Shadows traveling.
So I've thrown the Omen smoke. If we peek around, Now you'll notice a lot of that area has been blocked off. So now what do we have to do, right? We've used a smoke. We know that the enemy can't be peeking us through the smoke. So all we have to do is clear out the other angles. So that's an important tip. Use your abilities to block off certain areas that the opponent could be at. So all you have to do is focus, for example, on this corner, or if the smoke was still up, we'd only have to focus here on sight. Another tip that you can use while playing a character like Omen, who has smokes, you smoke off one side. If the enemy is there, they won't be able to see you. They'll have to make movement and work around the smoke while you can freely peek, for example, to the right instead of having to look left then right. Being able to smoke off certain areas of a bomb site or of the map gives you just a little bit more of a safety net when you're peeking corners or you're trying to push a site. It makes it so that there's one less area that you have to look at. Now, don't get me wrong, the enemy could be pushing the smoke, they could be sitting in the smoke. That's just something that might happen. But for the most part, if you drop a smoke in front of somebody, they're going to wait it out, or they're going to have to go around it. If they go around it, that's an audio cue for you. And hopefully you can use that to your advantage. So that tip with the smoke pretty much applies to anybody that has a smoke, right? We've talked about Omen. Brimstone is a very, very good character for this. He has an ability that can let him drop up to 3 smokes. Jet has the smoke ability. Viper has a really unique smoke where she can redeploy the poison orb, and that gives her the opportunity to activate and deactivate the smoke whenever she needs to. And she can use that in a situation, for example, if she needs to smoke off an area so she can peek, or use it to block the opponent's vision and then turn it off knowing that they're behind her smoke, and then pre-fire that location. Another example of using your abilities wisely would be with somebody like Brimstone, Raze, or Phoenix, somebody that can put an area of effect ability. For Brimstone, it's his Molly. For Phoenix, it's his, you know, flame carpet, and for Raze, it's her grenade. What this does is it kind of zones the enemy off. If they don't, they take damage. They must fall off of a position. So if you throw your Molotov or whatever into a corner that the opponent's hiding in, it will force them out of their advantageous angle. They'll have to get out of that zone, peek you, and all you have to do is place your crosshair in a really good spot and fire as they leave that damage area. Another example of using a different type of ability is have an agent that has flashes. So Phoenix or Breach, for example, being able to flash your opponent and give you that advantage to win the gunfight. As you'll see in this example, I can hear them coming up B long here on Bind, walking their way up to Garden or Octagon, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to flash the corner and I'll see that 2 of my opponents are stunned, which gives me a free opportunity to get those 2 kills. Here's another great example of using your abilities. After I get the first kill, I know that the last opponent's coming out from long. I use Breach's signature ability to stun him as he approaches to the site, and it just makes these gunfights a little bit easier. So what was the point of all of this? Well, what I want to get you to think about is to just use your abilities. They're relatively cheap to purchase every round, and there's no reason for you not to, unless of course you're trying to do an eco round and you're trying to save money for the next buy round. That's fine. But if you have a full buy available, purchase all of your abilities and try to use them. You never know when it could come in handy. You never know how much it might impact the next kill that you could get. And when it comes down to it, find an agent that you really like to play and just look at all of the different abilities that they have and think about how you can use them to help yourself win gunfights. A really good agent that I think some people should pick up is Brimstone. He's just really good right now in the meta. All of his abilities are extremely useful. As mentioned before, he has 3 smokes, which you can use all at once to take a site and help block off lines of sight that the opponent could be at. And now you have pretty much free control to try to push a site. You could use one of the smokes to just block off an angle so that you can peek a different way. His Molotov, like I said before, it can push somebody out of an advantageous corner and give you that advantage while they're trying to swing out of the damage. And so basically what I'm trying to say is find an agent that you like, try out different agents, figure out what abilities kind of suit your play style, and start experimenting with those abilities and seeing how you can utilize them within each game and each situation to optimize your chance of winning. Here's a last extra kind of tip for you guys. Think about agent abilities that can kind of combo together. For example, if you have a Sage on your team, which you most likely will, use the Sage's slow orb and throw your ability on that area. If there's a Sage slow orb on the ground and you put a Brimstone Molly on top of it, that's going to make it more difficult for the enemy to get out of that Molly. That's going to do it for today's video. I really hope that this video gets you thinking about using your abilities and how you can kind of theory craft your own ways to optimize your usage of abilities. And at the end of the day, please, please, please buy your abilities as much as you can and start using them. If you go rounds where you're not using abilities, that could be opportunity wasted for you to get an extra kill or two or to support your team. So just to recap today's video, we talked a little bit about swinging with information and why that's so important versus wide swinging without information. And we talked a little bit and started a little bit of a discussion on agent abilities and why they're so important and ways that you can use them to help you win more gunfights. As always, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or anything else you want us to cover, leave them in the comments below. Also, if you want to catch me live, check the link in the description. I'll be streaming on Twitch. I hope that you guys enjoy this tip series. It's a lot of fun to make, and I hope it does help you a little bit in your grind on Valorant. And until next time, we'll see ya. Peace.